This video is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. What's up, guys? Michael here with another philosophical reaction to the only show on TV with a giant incest space baby as a recurring character. Obviously, we're talking about Rick and Morty Season 5. Now, we've already unpacked some of the philosophical themes from this season in previous videos. From the history of war, to the morals of eco-terrorism, to the all-encompassing logic of capitalism. But one theme that stood out to me throughout the season was Morty's quest to find some kind of identity or meaning in his life outside of being his dick grandpa's sidekick. Because the idea of personal identity has been a common topic for philosophers across the centuries. So let's see if I can squeeze some philosophical wisdom out of a season that ends with a monologue from a character named Mr. Poopy Butthole, coincidentally my childhood nickname. Welcome to this edition of a Philosopher Reacts to Rick and Morty Season 5, Who is Morty? And spoilers ahead for the latest Rick and Morty and some very old philosophy books. But before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to this week's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark VPN helps you secure your data by using uncrackable encryption and the most secure VPN protocols. Plus, it's fast and easy to use. One of my favorite things about Surfshark is that it lets me binge content from around the world that I otherwise wouldn't be able to access. I really hate when I hear about some cool new comedy special from the UK, but can't actually watch it. But with Surfshark VPN, the internet can't figure out where I'm located. That means I can simply use one of their servers to log into BBC iPlayer and let the absurdist comedy wash over me. You can also unlock the 15 largest Netflix libraries around the world. That way, when you're traveling abroad, you can keep up with your favorite reality shows from back home about hot people on islands. It's a content connoisseur's dream. One subscription will allow you to protect all your favorite devices, whether it's a laptop, Android, Amazon Fire Stick, and even your PlayStation or Xbox. And there are apps for all your favorites too, like Chrome and Firefox. Surfshark VPN is fast, easy to install, and jam-packed with features. If you use the link in the description and use the promo code Wisecrack, you can get Surfshark VPN for 83% off its normal annual price, plus 3 extra months for free. So go to surfshark.deals/wisecrack or hit the link in the description. Protect yourself online and download Surfshark VPN today. And now, back to the show. Let's start with Morty's first big non-Jessica crush of the season. Like many impressionable young men, Morty gets into a new cause to impress a girl or a superheroine he likes.
I got kind of a positive vibe.
Oh, good. I was putting one out. I really like you.
Holy
Not unlike the time I became a vegetarian in college just to try to make my crush like me. She didn't. But I did stay a vegetarian for 3 years, so you win some, you lose some. But enough about me. Let's see how meeting a sentient amalgam of elements helps Morty find his identity.
There's a huge forest fire like 200 miles from here. This is amazing. Planetina's bound to be there. Mom, I need the credit card to buy a train ticket.
Absolutely not.
Mom, this is the biggest wildfire of the year.
You're not going.
I'm not. Last time I checked, this wasn't Russia.
It's not Russia, Jerry.
My heart is broken and I deserve to let
They have a
loose.
whole separate
And if
mission
you
in
don't
this
like
episode.
It, you can suck my bigger tit. Adios, C-words.
Told her dad
Morty,
to
I
suck her
don't
tit.
want you getting hurt. Please think this over.
I don't want to think. I want to see a girl I like.
Youch! Talk about a hot foot.
She said
Better put
youch.
this wildfire on ice.
Come here, little buddy. Come on. I gotcha.
Okay, so this is one of the first times in the season and series we see Morty try to find identity outside of his lapdog relationship with Rick. Hoping to impress his new crush Planetina, he rescues a rabbit from a forest fire like a good environmentalist warrior. In this moment, Morty is, at least at the surface level, finding a new identity and purpose in a cause that's bigger than himself. And he's seemingly willing to risk burning to death in a forest fire to commit to this cause. Now, apologies in advance for being a broken record, but you might be aware that one of my favorite philosophers is Søren Kierkegaard. Feel free to illegally pirate the book I wrote on him. And this 19th century Danish sad boy has a great quote about finding meaning. He writes, "What matters is to find my purpose. The crucial thing is to find a truth which is truth for me. To find the idea for which I am willing to live and die." In a way that foreshadows the existentialist that would come onto the scene a century later, Kierkegaard is getting at the idea that true identity is something that comes from deciding on a purpose that will orient our lives. And we see that in this episode, as Morty's crush-inspired belief in a cause leads him to take action. He rallies a sort of enthusiasm that we rarely see in our little semi-professional masturbator. This idea of finding truth and identity and some purpose outside of yourself becomes a huge theme for the 20th century existentialist. It also later becomes a core theme of the work of actually still alive philosopher Evan Yee, who thinks that finding an idea to live for is what creates human identity and subjectivity. But as we'll find out, sometimes this type of enthusiasm can go a little too far. Let's see how that plays out.
All of you, get out of there! You're killing the planet!
Your people didn't get the votes. Leave or I'll have you arrested.
It's you people who should be arrested. Gutting the land, poisoning the air your children breathe. Can't you see what you're doing?
Easy for you to say. You can live how you want. We need the jobs. Let's go, boys.
I really see both sides here.
We'll get him next time.
There's no time left! Can't you hear the earth screaming? You filthy murderer!
Tina, stop it!
There's only one solution for earth pollution!
Okay, I no longer see both sides. Just the burning people reflecting in his eyes. Whew, okay, so this is when living for a cause gets a little sketchy. Now, Planetina, while not a human, has an identity that's completely tied to the cause of environmentalism. And this isn't inherently a bad thing. It's probably a good thing. Until, you know, it leads her to murder a bunch of probably innocent people. And we've seen this in history. When people form their identities around nationalism, fascism, and other very not good causes. To jump back to the 18th century, philosopher Immanuel Kant was aware of the temptation to turn good-natured enthusiasm into a more dangerous fanaticism. Now, Kant drew a distinction between religious fanaticism, which has more to do with the individual's relationship to God, and moral fanaticism, in which someone projects their own beliefs onto the world as a whole. Philosopher and theorist Alberto Toscano describes Kant's view of fanaticism like this. The moral fanatic is a subject who, in refusing to submit himself to the universality of duty, can easily turn into a well-meaning murderer. For Kant, fanaticism is always a transgression of the limits of human reason. Well-meaning murderer, you say, like murdering a bunch of dudes going to work because you think it's morally right to do so? Now, what Toscano is saying here is that when you become fanatical about your so-called life's purpose, you run the risk of doing things to aid that purpose. And Kant's notion of moral fanaticism helps us understand how in the course of an episode, Planetina can go from putting out forest fires to lighting up human beings. Also, we did a video about how maybe she was right, so check that out if you haven't. And of course, the whole murder thing complicates Morty's romantic feelings for Planetina, leading to a sort of crisis of identity.
Morty, are you all right?
She's gone, Mom. She's gone. I loved her so much.
I know you did, honey.
It's so sad.
Mommy's here.
Whew. It's nice to have your mom comfort you. It's weird to have your mom comfort you, and right behind you there's a picture of a woman with giant breast. But philosophers have been talking about love since philosophy became a thing. One of Plato's texts, Symposium, is basically a transcript of a bunch of dudes getting faced while giving speeches about the nature of love. In this text, they talk about eros, which is a type of love that can make someone transcend their old identity and achieve new heights via the passion and purpose love has given them. It's like how Prince Harry used to be a guy who dressed up as a Nazi for funsies, but then he married Meghan Markle and we all decided that he was the good royal. Okay, it's not quite like that, but you get the point. Now, Aristotle, who, when you think about it, is sort of like the Morty to Plato's Rick, also thought love was super important to identity. He argued that in love, you find meaning and purpose through putting the needs of another above your own. In a sense, you find a new identity in this love, and more specifically, in your love and care for another person. And Evan Yee thinks that love is one of the ideas that's worth living for, and that it can even help humans become immortal. What's more, love can give us a sense of courage and passion that's so profound that it can transform our very identity. Also, Evan Yee is an old French man who's been married like 10 or 20 times, so I guess take all this with a grain of salt. Now, we see all of this in Morty's romance with Planetina, and then sadly, we see this all ripped away from him, shining a light on how much he'd been lacking a real sense of love and identity. Now, finding identity in love is risky, because it's dependent on another person, and the other person can always leave or do murder. So if you can't find identity in your love for a murderous sentient amalgam, where can you find it? Well, for many folks, and especially people during things like the World Cup, it can be found in national identity. Now, Morty's own sense of national identity becomes clear during the kinda so-so Thanksgiving episode, when he struggles to understand a revised history of his beloved nation.
So, after those aliens discovered America...
They went into hibernation, leaving us the technology we use to lead the free world. That and also to do stuff like slavery.
I always thought we were more special than that. Like, we invented everything and did everything, and that's why we own everything. Now, I don't know what to feel.
Feel thankful, Morty. Feel thankful.
Okay, so this right here makes me think of the trial of Socrates. Spoiler alert, he lost. They killed him. I guess he needed OJ's lawyers. Now, you probably know that one of the charges leveled against Socrates was the corruption of the youth. Basically, the political elite in Athens got pissed that Socrates was encouraging their sons to think critically and examine things for themselves, rather than just believing whatever their toga-clad dads told them to. That wasn't Socrates' only charge, because they also put him on trial for atheism. But this isn't the type of atheism that Rick espouses throughout the entire run of the show. It's a specific type of disbelief, a disbelief in the gods of the Athenian state. And these gods weren't like actual deities. They represented values in society. For example, if France had gods, they would be liberty, justice, and fraternity, and day drinking. And if America had gods, they'd be freedom, Judge Judy, and the song Closing Time by the band Semisonic.
Closing time. Time for you to go home to the places you will be from.
But in Morty's case, we see that one of the foundational beliefs of the Church of the Bald Eagle is American exceptionalism. The idea that America is a special and, well, exceptional place. A place that's deserving of its wealth and abundance. And a key part of this narrative is the foundational story of early American pilgrims and native peoples vibing out over a turkey dinner that had absolutely no undertones of colonial violence. After realizing that this narrative is untrue and also that aliens actually fought off evil turkeys to help start America, Morty is left, like one of Socrates' eager students, questioning the dominant values of the state. This then seems to destabilize both his personal identity and his relationship to a larger national identity. Now, I really like this example because it's a reminder that as far back as Socrates, personal and social identity were already intertwined. It also reinforces the reality that thinking philosophically has always had a social and political element because it involves questioning dominant social values. Okay, so now Morty has failed to find identity in an activist cause, in love, and in a nation, so where else might this sad young lad find meaning and purpose? How about the most magical thing of all, friendship?
Stop those portal boys!
Did you hear that? That's gonna stick.
Damn, just like Jackie Chan!
Ha! I guess that makes me Chris Tucker.
I guess?
Here you go.
That's really gross.
Holy did you see that? I mean, you blinded a guy with puke.
Oh, it was insane. Give me dap.
Am I doing it right? Did I give you a dap yet?
Look at us. We got out. And not just from the asylum, but from Rick. You get to say what an adventure is now.
Nicknames are so cool. But Morty's story right here is getting pretty sad. He's on such a mission this season to find some type of identity, and he's really looking for it in all the wrong places. Here, he's trying to find identity in a friendship with a guy he met through an accidental hand portal. So, just normal stuff. Now, while Nick turns out to be not a good dude, Morty isn't wrong to look for meaning in friendship. And famous smarty pants of the ancient world Aristotle agreed. For him, true friendship is an important and valuable thing which can lead to real happiness for all parties involved. And this friendship looks like two virtuous people who genuinely want what's good for each other. While Morty might have genuine intentions here, Nick, not so much. Aristotle was aware that most friendships aren't true and good. The bad ones are friendships of pleasure, where you're just friends with someone because it makes you feel good. Or usefulness, where you're friends with someone because they can get you cool stuff. And here, Nick, who is a bad dude, is using friendship with Morty for his own personal gain. And it ends how bad friendships always do, with someone having to cut their own hand off via a moving train and then cauterizing the wound with a fancy jetpack. So, for all his trials and tribulations, Morty still seems pretty philosophically rootless. But there is one Morty who seems to confidently find a new identity. Unfortunately, it's evil Morty.
Every version of us has spent every version of all of our lives in one infinite crib built around an infinite f***ing baby. And I'm leaving it. That's what makes me evil. Being sick of him. If you've ever been sick of him, you've been evil too. Rick, did you really leave the crows for me? Or did you come back because they dumped you? There you go, kid. Now you're evil Morty too. Sooner or later, we all are.
Now finally, we have a Morty that seems confident in his identity, and who is using the purpose given by this identity to make things happen. Sadly, that identity is rooted in being evil, and the purpose he's living for involves exploiting and murdering tons of other Mortys and Ricks along the way. But it's interesting to see how evil Morty's motivations and new sense of self sound kind of reasonable. And I think this has to do with something that Hegel talked about called recognition. For him, this was a way to talk about the development of consciousness. Now, later, Marx picked up this idea to talk about exploitation taking place in the factory, and today, recognition is still one of the key concepts used by contemporary critical theorists like Axel Honneth. The extremely TLDR version of this concept is that we develop into fully formed selves by being recognized as a self by another self. This helps us develop both identities as individuals and also social identities, as we are recognized by others as human beings. Sometimes, however, misrecognition happens, in which certain people are seen not as subjects, but as objects. And this leads to things like evil Morty and the Ricks violently exploiting the labor of less valuable Mortys. It's actually my new favorite boy band, Evil Morty and the Ricks. And for some contemporary theorists like Honneth, recognition is a central aspect of democracy, in which we must have a shared sense of recognition and cooperation to create a society truly guided by, well, all of us. And while evil Morty is definitely evil, he also got there due to frustration with the fundamental misrecognition between Ricks and Mortys. So his plan to break through the central finite curve is born of a desire to live in a world that isn't fundamentally defined by this type of misrecognition, in which Ricks are never going to offer mutual recognition to Mortys. This doesn't make it cool that evil Morty is exploiting the labor of other Mortys. We have a video on this too if you want to get into it. But it's at least an example of one version of Morty reckoning with the way that Rick's fundamental misrecognition has trapped him in the identity of always forgiving Rick's cosmic selfishness. Okay, so that's basically the end of Morty's journey this season. Will he find a meaningful identity in the future? Probably not. He's definitely not going to. But before you lose all hope, let's check out the after credits scene of the finale.
But I guess things went downhill from there. Started isolating myself from Amy. Used to tell her everything I was feeling. But then I guess I stopped. Because I wanted her to love who she thought I was, not who I felt myself becoming. Ever think about how horrified the people we love would be if they found out who we truly are? So we just dig ourselves deeper into our lies every day, ultimately hurting the only people brave enough to love us. Wish I didn't do that. Wish I was brave enough to love them back. I don't know. Maybe you should try it. We don't have as much time as we think. Ooh-wee.
Oh, wow. I really can't believe that one of the most emotionally impactful things I've seen on TV in years is this monologue from Mr. Poopy Butthole. But it's amazing, and makes me think of this famous line where Hegel says that the owl of Minerva flies at dusk, which is his way of saying that philosophy only understands things through hindsight. And I think this epilogue to the season can help us look back at what's been happening all along. Our buddy, Mr. Poopy Butthole, is sad and alone precisely because of an inability to find his identity in love, and specifically, a fear of sharing true mutual recognition with his wife. He's basically admitting that he's chosen self-deception and isolation over sharing loving recognition, and because of this, he's clearly miserable. If we use Mr. Poopy Butthole colored glasses to look back on the whole season, we see how Morty has also been caught up in the serious self-deception that's holding him back from finding love and meaningful identity. Honestly, like, I'm gonna be thinking about this scene for a while, and it's unreal that this is coming out of the mouth of a character called, once again, Mr. Poopy Butthole. But what do you guys think? Is Morty doomed to a life of unhappiness? Can we hopefully learn from his horrible mistakes? And will Mr. Poopy Butthole get his wife back? Let us know in the comments. Thanks as always to our patrons for all your support, and be sure to check out our podcast. Also, let me know if there are any other shows or movies that weren't the old philosophical once-over. Hit that subscribe button like you're tossing a Molotov cocktail at a congressperson's house, and don't forget to ring that bell. And as always, thanks for watching. Later. To the only show on TV with a giant incest space baby as a returning character. I said returning character. That was really weird. I'm dying, I think.